that was. Down is focusing on a story that doesn't make the headlines often. Not here, not anywhere as much as it should. We're talking about Sudan, where devastating conflict is unfolding that affects millions of lives, yet many of us barely hear about it. It's a complex, urgent situation, and it deserves more attention. The Middle East Eye video we're looking at, which we will look at, what's happening in Sudan, helps break down what's happening on the ground. It explains that the main actors in this conflict are the Sudanese armed forces and the Rapid Support Forces, whose power struggle has escalated into a full-scale war. Civilians are paying the highest price, facing mass displacement, collapsing infrastructure, attacks on hospitals, and serious human rights violations. The conflict involves ethnic targeting, violence against children, and what many observers are calling war crimes. It's not just a fight for territory, it's a humanitarian disaster and a test of international accountability. And despite the scale of the suffering, it's one of the most underreported crises in the world. This story is about understanding the human cost, the complexity of the conflict, and why global attention and awareness matter.
Bloodstains so vast they can be seen from space. 2,000 people killed in just 48 hours. Civilians executed in their homes and shot as they tried to flee.
Is terrifying. The RSF are killing all the black people in North Darfur. It is systematic.
It seems that really only now, after 2,000 civilians have been killed in 48 hours, the plight of Sudan's El Fasher is breaking through on social media and in Western headlines. But why did it take blood visible from space for the world to start paying attention?
If we don't act now, there will.
So this is an important part to stop at. So before we go on further, that is it's a really strong and powerful question. It's an important point to pause and ask, why isn't this news story everywhere? Well, Sudan's conflict is devastating, but it's underreported for several reasons. It's a very complex, ongoing war, making it difficult to summarize in ways that fit traditional news segments. Journalists face extreme dangers covering it, and even when reporting is possible, access to reliable information is limited. Global attention tends to follow crisis with immediate political or economic impact, and sadly, this means that millions of people suffering daily don't get the visibility their situation demands. On top of that, the historical and political complexity makes it harder for international audiences to understand quickly. Dramatic images that often drive headlines are harder to obtain when areas are unsafe, and the humanitarian organizations also struggle to get their voices heard. All of this adds up to the crisis that exists in plain sight but remains largely invisible to the wider world. If you don't pause and think about why it's not being reported, it's easy to underestimate just how urgent this situation is.
There'll be no one left to save.
In Sudan, in the city of El Fasher, 250,000 people are trapped. Half of them children. They've been under siege for over 500 days, with no food, no medicine, no way to escape. Starvation and disease are everywhere. And on Sunday, the UAE-backed Rapid Support Forces besieging them, a militia led by General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, aka Hemeti, launched their deadliest assault on the city yet. They swept into the city, seizing army positions, crushing defences, and carrying out house-to-house massacres.
Yeah, so I mean, it's strikingly clear just how severe this humanitarian crisis is. We're seeing millions of Sudanese people that have been displaced from their homes. The basic infrastructure is collapsing. The hospitals are overwhelmed. Everything from food, water, electricity is becoming increasingly scarce. There's no schools. They're all closed or destroyed.
People are shocked for having black skin.
Literally. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, this is the thing, though, isn't it? Civilians are not just being caught in the crossfire, but they're being directly targeted by these armed groups. So, yeah, families are now being forced to flee with nothing but what they can carry, the children and their elderly, the sick and the vulnerable. But it's not. It's an incredibly dangerous situation for everyone. There's no clear way out of this. And this crisis does go far beyond either military strategy or politics. It's... these are accusations of war crimes.
Turning into a genocide is what's happening.
Yeah.
genocide.
Yeah, and this is the thing as well, though, because for many of us watching from afar, it could be really difficult to fully grasp like the scale and the immediacy of the suffering without hearing and understanding these sorts of details. Like it's a really big story. We were looking at it, you know, we've been having a gander at this for a while, and it's been a very big story to tackle. There is so much about this that is just. It's just horrible, but it needs to be talked about more. We're not seeing enough of this in the press in the West.
It's just awful. You know, yeah, keep it playing.
I'm so sorry.
RSF members.
I'm sorry I did it again. Are you okay?
Yeah, carry on.
Also filmed themselves with people they had captured trying to flee. In one clip, scores of men are seen on the ground, surrounded by fighters who repeatedly call them slaves. The RSF fighters then shoot them. In another, fighters tell 6 detained men who are in civilian clothes but identify themselves as soldiers that they can flee. Once the men begin running, the gunmen open fire on them, downing at least 3. The same forces that brutally attacked Darfur's indigenous communities 20 years ago are back, systematically hunting, killing, and terrorizing the same populations. The US accused the RSF of committing genocide when it took another Darfur city, Al Janaina.
Now, this is where the report gets to highlighting something. It's not just a humanitarian crisis, obviously, but there are allegations of war crimes, systematic targeting of civilians. There are reports of ethnic-based attacks, assaults on hospitals, schools, and other places where people, you know, are vulnerable and seeking safety. Children are being caught up in this. It's not just a war over territory or political control. This is a conflict where civilians are being deliberately harmed. Any international rules or laws that have been designed to prevent this from happening have been completely violated or just ignored completely. So there's obviously urgent questions about accountability. So this violence going unchecked, what is the international community, you know, what's going to be their response? I'm not seeing much of it at the moment. Obviously, America has called this a genocide, but this is a story that, as we've said, you know, the theme of this is the fact that it's not been highlighted enough, which is why we're talking about it. And frankly, this should be absolutely everywhere. But we want to see what the international community is saying. The people that we see in these videos now, they're not statistics. They're just their mothers, their fathers, their children, their entire communities whose lives have been upended. And we need to remember that and to acknowledge the human faces behind the crisis. Even if it's uncomfortable to confront, it's important to do so. This is it's a tragedy unfolding right in front of our eyes. And yeah, it's got all the hallmarks of being something that's going to take a long time to resolve. That, you know, I hope that the international community isn't as impotent in this regard as it has been in other incidents of humanitarian crisis. I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, Dad.
There's not much you can add to it. This needs fucking immediate. The UN or somebody getting in there immediately and fucking separating. It's no good unless you can actually physically stand between these people. You're not going to talk them out of it, I don't think. They're on a roll. I think you're going to have to get people to physically stand there with guns and say, you are not doing this anymore. It's fucking terrible, isn't it? Fucking terrible.
It is. I'm going to hit play.
But ceasefire talks in Washington collapsed just days ago, with the UAE, whose support for the RSF has been well documented, refusing to address the crisis in El Fasher. But for many, and for so long, Sudan has become a story forgotten and garnering little notice. Why? I spoke to human rights activist Kate Ferguson to understand how this has been allowed to continue largely unchecked.
There is an unwillingness to take on what it means to protect civilians from the gravest crimes. And that is political, that is structural, and it's an absolute absence of leadership, a very worrying trend to the rest of the world.
Sudan's civil war began in April 2023, after tensions over integrating the rapid support forces into the national army exploded into open conflict. More than 150,000 people have died, 12 to 13 million have been forced from their homes, and some 25 million struggle with hunger and disease. El Fasher was the last city in Darfur held by the government. Its fall now gives the RSF near total control over the region, and with that control comes the ability to escalate violence with terrifying speed. But in Darfur, that violence takes a distinct racialized form.
The RSF are killing all the black people in North Darfur. It is systematic.
And the RSF isn't acting alone. They are backed by the United Arab Emirates, which has invested heavily in Sudanese ports, infrastructure, gold, and farmland.
Now, when it comes to these sorts of events, how are they allowed to occur? How could this possibly have happened? You follow the money. You follow the money.
Yeah, absolutely. Gold, farmland.
These actions, I mean, as indefensible as they are, people are trying to defend them. And they're backing them up, and it's absolutely shocking. The complexity and the global awareness of this situation is one that is staggering, and it's unfolding right now in front of us in terms of what we're seeing on the ground, and the massacres, the systematic targeting of people in their homes, and this is all being backed by rich and wealthy people. Follow that gold, follow that, follow all the investments and everything else. Yeah, it's so unbelievably tragic, isn't it? And again, I do want to say as well, I had thought about putting up a trigger warning, and perhaps I should have beforehand, but this is a report that's out here. Things have been blurred out and stuff, and I know that we've seen some really distressing images and scenes, but this is reality. I'm not trying to gore bomb you in any way, shape, or form. Like I say, this is just this is a news report, but it's reality, and it's really happening right now on the ground. Yeah, we just need to start looking at how this conflict happened, the complexities around it, why it's underreported, why it's so difficult for people to be able to summarize exactly what's happening there, and trying to unmuddy those waters, because at the moment it's a swimming blind, and this is just horrendous.
I think there's also. Oh God, sorry, carry on.
No, it's fine. No, I was going to say I was ready to hit play, but I didn't. Yeah, I was going to ask if you had anything to say.
I've forgotten what I was going to say now. Yeah, I have. It's all right. It'll come to me. Play it again.
It's just speaking to the human cost of this and the fact that some of these people.
Yeah, this is what I was going to say. I mean, the world looks on now at genocide. We seem to be getting. It doesn't seem to make us bat an eyelid anymore. It's a genocide. Oh, right. Okay.
Another one.
Always happens in that part of the world. People say that and just ignoring the fact that these are women, babies, children, innocent people.
Dads, brothers, cousins, mothers, sisters, daughters, nieces, nephews. We've all got some of them, and you know what I mean. That's the human element in this. Forgetting it doesn't matter where people are.
Again,
if there's one thing that's universal, there's two things that are universal. That's joy and sorrow. And pain and things like that, emotions, that's something that we all feel. We are all humans. That's a universal trait that we all have. And so, we can't imagine what they're going through, and we can't understand it, but we will stand with them, and we will say that this is wrong, and with absolute moral clarity, this is obscene, this is horrendous, it's abhorrent, and the international community needs to be seen to be doing more, and we need to be looking at why they aren't doing more, why this isn't being reported so much, and where does the money go, who's profiting from this, and why is it happening in general. Like, it's a big and difficult one to wrap your head around, and it's a story that will be unfolded. But 2,000 people in 48 hours massacred, that cannot go without an answer. That cannot be something that is just swept under the rug. And shame on Western media for not talking about this more. And big up Middle East Eye for it. Yeah.
With food security being a
No, carry on.
Right, okay, I'm going to hit play and I'll be right back.
strong interest for the UAE. Analysts say Abu Dhabi's support is about protecting its economic interests, and in doing so, providing cover for one of the deadliest genocides in decades.
The US should be calling that out. They should be calling the UAE out. They should be doing it publicly, because that would put real pressure on the UAE, which would in turn incline it to put more pressure on the RSF. But as long as the UAE is not feeling much heat over what they're doing, they can continue to play this double game.
So in Darfur, indigenous populations are being systematically targeted with impunity, entire neighborhoods emptied, abductions, sexual violence, and torture have been reported. This is genocide in real time, according to recent reports. And it's not just a tragedy, it's a warning. A paramilitary force backed by a powerful state is targeting people because of who they are.
I would say anyone who has the power, call out the UAE.
As horrifying videos continue to emerge, activists are warning that silence from the international community is enabling ongoing atrocities.
And it is enabling the ongoing media silence. The fact that the world is quiet is it's scary, and it's enabling this. These things don't happen unless people are looking away. It's impossible to not see. It said at the beginning that the scenes were so bad from one of the massacres that the bloodstains could be seen from satellites in space. It's absolutely crazy. But when we come on to the complexity and the global awareness of this issue, as we watch that, it's important to step back and recognize that this conflict it's hard for the wider world to fully grasp, because the situation in Sudan involves multiple armed groups. It involves long-standing political rivalries, fractured governance structures. It's extremely complex, but the complexity shouldn't reduce the urgency. So we're not experts. We're just a couple of Burks, right? But we can understand that the urgency is needing to be understood, and we need to discuss this conflict, and we need to talk about these events because it's important to do so. So yeah, that video showed us that the war is underreported, but not because it isn't serious, but because it's dangerous to cover, because there's powerful people behind it, because it's difficult to summarize, and it's overshadowed by a lot of other sort of international crisis. But awareness matters, and if global attention and reporting don't exist on this matter, then the risk that this suffering will continue and be largely invisible and unchallenged is too great. So we have to talk about it. We have to pause and reflect, and think about what we've just seen, and think about how we can approach this conversation in a meaningful way.